tubes. To be more specific, tube amplifiers. And these are the kind of amplifiers that a couple of audiophiles just swear that this is such a life-changing experience. But is it really? And how was my experience with the Fosi GR40 tube preamplifier? Let's talk about it. Now first, let me preface this by saying that I am very new to tube amplifiers, and this is a very new territory for me. I have tried out tube amplifiers in the past, but this is the definitive experience that I've had with tube amplifiers, so I'm going to be comparing in my perspective against normal dongle DACs and desktop amplifiers. Let's start with the unboxing experience. The unboxing experience of the GR40 is quite simple. It comes in a purple box with Fosi branding, and opening the box reveals the GR40's 5456W tubes, decorative rings, the 12-volt power supply, and the Bluetooth antenna. The amplifier is built from an aluminum material with smooth edges and a dark blue finish that doesn't seem to be scratch prone. On top, we can find the slots where the tubes would be placed. In front, you can find the LED indicator, 3.5mm jack, bass and treble knobs, and the orange volume knob. And in the back, you can find the RCA jacks, coaxial jack, optical jack, Type-C jack, the Bluetooth antenna jack, and the 12-volt jack. The GR40 features an ES9028Q2M DAC capable of decoding 32-bit, 384 kHz, and up to DSD 256. It has an output at 32 ohms of 250 milliwatts on its 3.5mm jack. It also features Bluetooth connectivity and supports AAC, SPC, aptX, aptX HD, and aptX LL. Upon receiving the device, the tubes will not be plugged in by default, which means you will need to insert them yourselves. Carefully check the pins to match the connector in the amplifier and adjust accordingly before slotting the tubes in. Plug the 12-volt adapter to an outlet and the amplifier and hold the orange knob until the orange LED lights up. Change the connection to your desired connection. In this case, I am using Bluetooth, and the device will be searching for a new connection by default. So all you need to do is search for the GR40 on your device. Ensure that you wait at least 15 seconds before playing any music through the amplifier. So let's finally talk about how the GR40 actually sounds like, and before that, let's talk about my testing parameters. So I mostly use the GR40 on my phone, on my PC, and through my R3 Gen 2. And all of these are either using the USB-C input or the Bluetooth connectivity whenever available. And as for the headphones that I use the Audio-Technica ATH500 or ATA500, the NiceHack EB2S Pro, and the Moritz Paradise. And I did not use this as a preamp, as it's technically part of the name of it, but I use this as its own dedicated DAC amp for desktop. So those are my testing parameters. And how does it sound? Well, unexpectedly warm. However, it is surprisingly rounded and very immersive. And I should also mention that this does have like EQ knobs, and I think I mentioned that in a prior section, that these do have specifically bass and treble knobs for you to play around with. And that means that depending on your listening experience and your pair of headphones, you might have a completely different experience to me. So I'm going to be talking about my experience here, and just the fundamental experience is very warm and intimate. And there's this certain level of roundness in the overall sound that like other DACs that just doesn't have. You know, it's a very immersive and very full sound, even like while you're playing around with the EQ, and it's just like the tonal quality of it. And I have different EQ values for the tuning for my EB2S Pro, for the Moritz Paradise, and the AVA, and for all of them it seems like I needed to chunk down the treble just a little bit more compared to the bass, where the bass would be at like around 12 o'clock, the treble would be around 11 or even 10 o'clock, depending on like for example, the Moritz Paradise is fine, a little bit closer to 12, but the AVA would be closer to around 11 o'clock. And now, speaking of the treble, I did not expect the treble of the GR40 to be as like impactful as it is. Now, don't get me wrong, I wasn't expecting, like this to be a super dark thing. Although I do have my experiences, I know that tubes don't make a dark sound, more like it kind of just colors the low end and doesn't really touch the high end. But I did not expect how powerful the high end of the GR40 is, and I thought that was pretty interesting, which means that listening to something like the AVA 500 was just absolutely amazing on the GR40. The pairing of this sort of warmer, more rounded sounding low end with this just really powerful but fatigue-free top end is just really, really good. And I listened to like the album Time and Pace by Flu with this thing, and it's just such a chill listening session all the way. That entire 30-minute album is just absolutely amazing on this pairing, and I absolutely adore the fact that it is such a nice pairing. But considering the fact that this is a tube amp, you kind of expect it to be a good pairing with something brighter like the AVA. So pairing it with something like the EB2S, which is a bit more neutral, expectedly, I do think that it is a little bit more dull sounding, as I would say. I do think that the EB2S like benefits from a more, I would say, transient sounding source or amplifier, and the GR40 is just not that. And like I guess like for like other amps and dongles that I've experienced personally, I just didn't expect that it would be this smooth, and it's honestly kind of tripping a little bit. Like it doesn't give you that usual flat neutral kind of clinical sound. This sounds like it has personality. Like that's the best way that I can describe how it feels listening to a tube amp like the GR40. And again, I wouldn't call it transient, more like rounded, and it kind of like lacks the bite and technicality. Like, it's very tiring audiophile words, but like the best way that I can describe how this thing sounds is like the fundamental definition of a musical sounding audio device. And it's just such a chill listening experience listening to the GR40, and I really enjoy it, because like whenever I listen to this thing, I don't concern myself with like details or technicalities or all of that. I legitimately just enjoy the music how it is on the stuff that I pair it with. However, there are a bit of limitations when it comes to its pairing, particularly with high sensitivity and low impedance stuff. Yes, IAMs are not a good pairing for the GR40, and to be expected. I mean, like these really powerful or these really specialized amps, they're not really catered for IAMs. Those are better for like portable dongles and stuff. This is really like a desktop thing. But if you do have any plans to pair this with like IAMs, make sure that it's like the higher impedance, lower sensitivity one, something like the final EA 2000 or EA 1000 or something like that. Pair it with something like that. Don't pair it with something like the Moritz Paradise, which was just an absolute noisy mess. And don't get me wrong, I did like my experience with it. I liked how it rounded out the low end, but I didn't really like the noise that also came attributed with it. It was not a good experience. So I do think that it's a very much not IAM centered amplifier if you're looking for something like that. So let's compare this to, well, my experiences, which is mostly what you would call the normal dongle DACs with normal amplifiers and all of that. And just overall, this is a much warmer and rounded sounding amplifier compared to everything else that I've tried. And there's emphasis in the smoothness of the sound over like details and all of that, like technical ability that you would usually find in, or being compared with other dongles and amplifiers. And speaking of, I want to compare it to Fosi's own Fosi SK02, and the SK02 emphasizes the details, the technicalities of the sound much better but the GR40 just has a little bit more character that it brings about from its amplifier to the headphones that you listen to. It's not like it's a very unique listening experience where the SK02 is more nuanced and detailed. The GR40 is just more smooth and relaxing sounding. So to finally conclude my thoughts on the GR40, it is such a unique, warm, and rounded sounding amplifier that is completely different from everything that I've listened to prior, both in a good way and a bad way. I had to get used to this kind of sound, if I'm going to be honest with you. It's not like whoa, this is so mind-blowing, because I am used to a lot of details. It's not a treble head. I do love the AV aping, having a lot of treble, but I really absolutely love this. And, I don't really mind that it's not a very technical or linear sounding amplifier. It is quite unique for what it does. And if you're looking for something like that, well, for $120-ish, this is a pretty honestly really good buy. Really good features. The bass knobs and the treble knobs are surprisingly useful, especially if you're fine-tuning the specific headphones that you're listening to. But that's only if you're looking for this kind of sound. It's not for everybody, and it's not for every single pair of headphones that you throw this into. So keep that in mind. And yeah, thank you for watching my review on the GR40. I really had a lot of fun with this, and I'm definitely going to be pairing this with my future headphones and earbuds. They're not IEMs, because no thanks, but it's just a really good amplifier overall. I really loved it. So thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, consider giving me a like. If you like more of my content, consider giving me a subscription for free, completely free. Check out the Discord page, talk to me, check out Audio Notions. And with that, obodio out.